Hello everyone, and welcome back to our second Sphero episode. In this episode, we're going to learn how to connect Sphero to the iPad and how to do some basic programming. So the first step is we want to have Sphero fully charged and placed at the start of our track. Our second step is we want to have our iPad ready and fully charged. So we're going to go into the iPad and you're going to look for the Sphero app. So my Sphero app is located right here. So I'm going to just click on that. Okay, so now I'm at the Sphero home page. So as you can see, I can't see the programs that I want to code because this is called the feed section of Sphero. So we want to go to the bottom of the screen and where we see the house, we want to go over one, and you can see it says programs, and we want to click that. Okay, so when we get into the programs section, we're going to be presented with a plus and a let's get started. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to press the plus button. Now the iPad is asking us to name our program. So I'm going to call this My First. And I'm going to press save. Okay, so we can see on the iPad there are a lot of controls at the bottom of the screen. So with Sphero, how we code with Sphero is we use puzzle pieces, which can be slid to connect to our other puzzle pieces that are at the start of our program. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the puzzle pieces that were already included. So we're going to hold the top puzzle piece and slide it to the trash can. Okay. Now we need to connect to Sphero. So our first step to connect to Sphero is we have to choose the Sphero that we have. So to figure this out, we're going to look at Sphero. So you can see that my Sphero is SPRK+. So I'm going to look for that one here. So it's actually the second Sphero. Okay, it's looking for Sphero. So my Sphero is right here. So look for the one in your classroom that has the strongest signal strength and is closest to your iPad. That will be the Sphero you connect to. So I'm going to connect to it by clicking it. And we can see that Sphero has now lit up blue. Now, here's a very important part of programming Sphero. This is the aim section. So as we can see right now, the blue dot that's lit up on Sphero is pointing towards the right-hand side almost. We want this blue dot to always point towards start. So how I'm going to fix this is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use this dot and I'm going to slide it. So when I slide it, we can see Sphero is turning. So we want the blue dot to point towards start. So the blue dot always aims away from Sphero direction of forwards. So once the blue dot is completed, he is now pointing in this direction. This is his forwards. That is left. And that is right. Okay, now that we have Sphero aimed, we have to look ahead and look at our track. We have to see what do we need Sphero to do to get to the end of the track. So when looking at it from Sphero's perspective, I'm going to walk on top of the track just to see where Sphero has to go. So Sphero is going to have to walk forwards. Then he's going to stop. Now, which direction does Sphero have to go? Sphero is going to have to turn left. Okay, now Sphero is going to have to roll forwards. Then Sphero is going to have to turn left again. Roll forwards. And stop. Okay, so the next step in our program is we have to put some code in here. Because if I press start, nothing will happen because Sphero has no code to follow. So Sphero is coded through using puzzle pieces. So at the bottom here, Sphero tells you that it has movements, lights, sounds, controls, operations, sensors, and events. So the controls that we're going to use are movements and controls. We will go over the other controls in a different video. So the first basic control we're going to need is this control right here. So it has roll with 0 degrees at 0 speed for so many seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this puzzle piece underneath on start program. And you can see that my two puzzle pieces are now connected. So now we have to input some data for Sphero. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the angle Sphero is going to go. So we can look at our heading. So if we're looking at our heading, our arrow is pointing straight. So if we aimed Sphero earlier and the blue dot was facing start, that means that that direction is forwards for Sphero. The opposite of the blue dot is forwards. So I'm going to go 0 degrees because my track is straight. Now I'm going to choose my speed. So I don't like to go too fast. So I'm going to pick something slow. Do not go too fast because you won't have control of Sphero. So I'm going to pick 69. Now I have to choose for how many seconds. So this is done by trial and error. So I'm going to choose 3 seconds, and I'm going to test that to make sure that that is correct before going to the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press start. Okay, so we can see that Sphero is still trying to go forwards, and I gave it too much time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press stop. I'm going to retrieve Sphero. So you can have one of your teammates pick up Sphero and put it back on the black dot that you put at the start of your map. So a couple of things. I noticed that Sphero did not go on a straight angle. He was slightly positioned to the left. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back to the aim button, and I have to make sure that Sphero is pointing directly backwards. So it's very hard to see on film, but Sphero is actually not pointed forward straight. So I'm just going to correct that. Okay, now Sphero is straight. So the second thing I'm going to change is either the speed Sphero is going, so he goes slower for 3 seconds, or the time that Sphero goes. I'm going to choose to change the time because it's easier for Sphero to move with a little bit of speed. Okay, let's see how Sphero does this time. So I'm going to press start again. Alright, still a little bit too much speed, so I'm going to reduce the speed. But first I'm going to press stop. I'm going to retrieve my Sphero, and I'm going to bring it back to the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to make the speed a little bit slower. I'm going to put it at 44. Okay, now I'm going to press the start button to see what happens. Okay, we can see Sphero ended just at the end of the first straightaway. So this is perfect. So I'm going to press stop on my iPad. I'm going to bring Sphero back to the beginning. So the next step I want to do is I want to stop Sphero at the corner. I don't want Sphero to go straight into his turn, because if I do this, Sphero will turn and it'll be a rounded turn, but I want a straight right angled turn at 90 degrees. As you can see, the tape makes a 90-degree angle there. So if it's 90 degrees, Sphero has to stop and then turn left, then go. So there's multiple steps here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Controls, and I'm going to choose Delay, which is the first one out of Controls, and I'm going to put 2 seconds. Okay, so what's going to happen is Sphero is going to go, then he's going to delay for 2 seconds, and then he's going to wait for the next command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my next movement. So this is my movement piece, which will be needed to move Sphero after we do the delay. So now I have to figure out what angle or heading is Sphero going to go after he lands at this corner. So if I remember correctly, my forwards direction is this way on my map. So forwards for Sphero is pointing that way. So if I want to make this corner, I am going to have to complete a left-hand turn. I'm going to have to turn to the left. So the left-hand turn on Sphero is a little bit different than your normal left. A left on Sphero is 270 degrees. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use this arrow and turn it until you reach 270 degrees. My next step is I'm going to have to put some speed on Sphero. So a little bit of speed. So I'm going to go with 47. I'm going to choose 2 seconds because it's almost the same distance as the last bit that Sphero traveled. It's actually slightly shorter. It's hard to show on video. So I'm actually going to reduce the speed just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go at 35 for 2 seconds. Alright, so I'm going to test this and see what happens. So I'm going to press start. Okay, so we can see Sphero's delayed for 2 seconds. Okay, then it moved forwards. So we can see it's touching the line, so if we don't want it to touch the line, we could reduce the speed. But it's still okay because Sphero is still on the inside of the track. So I'm going to go ahead and program my next step. But before I do that, I have to press stop. And I'm going to pick up Sphero and bring it back to the beginning. And make sure you always place it on the dot that you placed at start. Okay. Now I have to go to Controls. And I'm going to choose Delay. And I'm going to put 2 seconds again, because that was just enough time for Sphero to slow down. Alright, now I'm going to go to Movements. And I'm going to choose the first puzzle piece. Okay, so now I have to look at my map again, or my track, and see which way will Sphero have to go when Sphero reaches this corner. So Sphero is going to have to come back down the track. So this is a little bit tricky because Sphero's aim is that direction is forwards, that direction is right, that direction is left, and this way, towards me, is backwards. So how we tell Sphero to go backwards is a little bit different than a remote-controlled car or something you're used to. We have to use angles again. So to go backwards, it will be 180 degrees. So you're going to have to use your arrow and slide it to 180 degrees. The next step is we have to put speed in again. So I'm going to choose another speed that's close to 40. And I'm going to pick 40 right on. Now I have to put in my seconds. For how long do I want that speed to go? So I'm going to put 2 seconds. Now, to end our program, we have to put a special puzzle piece. We have to go to Controls, which is right here. Then we have to select Exit Program to finish the program at the end of our track, because that will be the finish of our track. Okay, so now we're going to test this and make sure that everything works. Okay, so Sphero made it to the first corner okay. Second corner was a little bit off, but it's still okay. It's still following the track. Perfect, and Sphero ended just at the end of the track. So now you can try this with your class and see how it goes. Okay, thanks for watching.